Okay.
Okay, welcome, everybody. Resilient Hartford is delighted to see your interest in possible alternative ways to use a section of Clifford Park. We expected to hold this first community meeting last fall, but alas, COVID slowed down our preparations, but we're all set to go now. Before we begin, I have to read something, which is a script because we're on a remote public meeting. So bear with me while I read this. As chair of Resilient Hartford, my name is Kai Cochran, by the way. As chair of Resilient Hartford, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by Governor Scott as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and pursuant to Addendum 6 to the Executive Order 0120 and Act 92, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. In accordance with Act 92, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the temporary amendments to the open meeting law, I confirm that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone or video. We are using Microsoft, no, we are using, I don't know what we're using, Kat can tell you, for this remote meeting. All members of the commission have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if desired, participate in this meeting by speaking into the phone or computer microphone. B, providing public notice of instructions for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing this meeting, including how to access the meeting using telephone, video, and other electronic means in our posted meeting agenda. Instructions have also been provided on the town website at www.hartford-vt.org. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please email Matt Osborne at mosborn@hartford-vt.org. And D, continuing the meeting if necessary. In the event the public is unable to access this meeting, it will be continued to a time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. And that's the end of that. And now, Frederica, is it Frederica?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so my name is Frederica, and I'm going to start by giving a history of our committee, which is spearheading this project. So our committee is called Resilient Hartford. It's a 6-year-old town commission appointed by the Hartford Select Board to engage residents and town leaders in activities that increase Hartford's ability to deal as a community with emergencies that might arise in the future. And they might be natural emergencies or they might be man-made. We have 7 members on this commission named Marcia Autilio, Marcia Govin, Frederica Graham, Dylan Kreis, Leah Mosenthal, Laura Simon, and our chair, Kai Cochran. Resilient Hartford also has several liaison members, including John Boughton from the Conservation Commission, Ali Tafenjian from the Select Board, John Reed from the Planning Commission, Lynn Bohai from the Energy Commission, and Matt Osborne, our staff support person. Since 2015, Resilient Hartford has sponsored workshops, presentations, surveys, and work days, all geared toward bringing the community together to learn. In 2016 and 2017, the committee sponsored Resilience Week, which was a series of workshops and community events that were planned to coincide with the anniversary of the Hurricane Irene. Attendance was big. It averaged about 300 people for the week-long event, I think both years. In 2018, Resilient Hartford shifted its focus to hosting a series of workshops. And that summer, over 50 people attended a workshop by permaculture author Ben Falk, and then over 40 people attended one by resilience author Chuck Collins. In 2019, we switched gears and sponsored Potato Fest. That was an inter-village challenge. All the 5 villages of Hartford competed to recruit families to grow potatoes. The goal was to encourage greater food self-sufficiency through gardening. Approximately 100 families signed up for the challenge, and White River Junction won out, but just barely, over Queechee. That September, we held a big celebration in Lyman Point Park with games, contests, and a potluck, all featuring potatoes. It was a lot of fun, but unfortunately that wonderful celebration had to be canceled in 2020 because of COVID. But we hope to host the Potato Fest again in the near future. And in January 2020, Resilient Hartford sponsored a game. It was Is Hartford Prepared? An emergency preparedness scenario game with participation from over 40 residents. Resilient Hartford also contributed to the update of the Hartford Hazard Mitigation Plan in 2020. And we participated in quarterly conference calls with Community Resilience Organizations Vermont, or CROWS, Crow Vermont, and co-sponsored a soil series with BALE, an organization called Building a Local Economy. This year, we have a new project working with our Parks and Rec department to add pocket parks and food forests to some of our town parks. We'll be starting with Clifford Park in West Hartford, and Marcia Artilio will tell us about this project.
Thank you, Frederica. Hi, I'm Marcia, and I'm going to talk about why we chose the project that we did, which was suggested to us by members of the Parks and Recreation Commission. We all know that Hartford has quite an extensive system of town parks, but some of these town parks are not getting as much use as they did in the past. With the Maxfield playing fields now attracting a lot of local sports teams, some of the park playing fields are simply not being used to capacity, and Clifford Park is one example. So we asked ourselves, how could we use this land that we already have in a new way to benefit our community? As a group focused on building community resilience, we wanted a project that would engage a wide variety of community members in creating something that would enhance Hartford's ability to cope with changes and challenges. At the same time, our experience of the pandemic has revealed that there's more food insecurity in the Hartford area than we may have thought or would like to think. So using land that we already own to create a shared food resource for the town, a food forest, seemed like a good practical choice for us in both the short term and the long term. We conducted a survey of the community last summer, and we had a very strong positive response to this idea, which brings us to tonight.
We're looking for you now, Kai.
Yeah. Hi. So we have hired Kat Buxton and Karen Gainey to help us with our project here. And I'm going to just read you a little bit about Karen and about Kat. Karen Gainey is the founder and designer of Permaculture Solutions, LLC, a fully insured ecological landscape design business where she designs gardens and that maximize biodiversity and ecosystem health. She is also the facilitator for a teen-run nonprofit organization called Change the World Kids, where teenagers work on social, environmental, and food justice issues. Karen is a certified permaculture instructor, master composter, and has installed edible and native habitats for schools, hospitals, and municipalities. She has also helped to found the Upper Valley Apple Corps and the Regeneration Corps, both community initiatives working toward a local thriving food system. Kat Buxton is a busy cross-pollinator from Sharon, Vermont, focused on ecosystem resilience. Her business, Grow More, Waste Less, is empowering and connecting communities to effect positive change from the ground up. A self-described microbe geek, Kat loves to talk about bugs, soil, gardening, and composting, pretty much wherever she goes. She manages the edible schoolyard at Thetford Elementary School, weaving it into the kindergarten through 6 project-based learning, and is a technical guide for school compost systems. She works with Regeneration Corps to engage high school aged students in the outdoors. She leads land listener workshops with the Soil Carbon Coalition and organizes the Upper Valley Apple Corps and a host of other projects, including the Vermont Healthy Soils Coalition. So now we will have both of these women speak. Karen and, by the way, Karen and Kat are both extremely good friends of mine too.
Thank you so much, Kai. We are a little behind schedule, but that's no big deal. So just ignore the time that's listed here. But this slide is just to let you know what's ahead. We're going to try and get through, Karen and I, these about a dozen slides to just sort of frame the project. And then we'd love to get into a question and answer session with you. And as you can tell from our bios, Karen and I work together quite a lot. And we're really excited to work together on this project with you as well. We always like to start off with a land acknowledgement. In the work that we do in the world, it's very important to understand our place. So I'm going to read part of this to you and ask for a moment of silence partway through. And meanwhile, Karen will put the sources of this into the chat for you, and we'll have that recorded for the notes publicly as well. We are gathering online on the ancient grounds of the Wobotec Odanak, which is White River Village, in Indakana, our land. We are gathering in the middle of this ancient nation homeland, which includes Vermont, New Hampshire, northern Massachusetts, western Maine, and southern Quebec. This is the sovereign homeland of the Abenaki Nation, some say the Abenaki Nation, and people. Since ancient times, the Abenaki know that they have always been here. They are still here and will always be here. We pay our respects to them and to the wisdom of the elders and their culture. And I'd like to ask for just a brief moment of silence to acknowledge that. Thank you. We are committed to continuing to learn and care for the land, waters, and air here in partnership with the many Abenaki Nation peoples in a better, more respectful way.
Thank you, Kat. So we're just going to go over a brief, history, especially after acknowledging that, the Abenaki people have been here for pre-colonization for, thousands of years prior to colonization. But I think what ties us all together tonight is our interest in one little patch of earth that we now kind of refer to as the Clifford Park. And this is, I assume you all know where it is located, right on the White River. And this was land that at some point became under the ownership of the Hazen family, which helped to develop West Hartford in a number of different ways, and was eventually sold to Irwin Clifford in 1960, who eventually kind of went on to give it to the town of Hartford for, I believe, $1 in the 1970s. And as I understand it, Irwin Clifford was also, he owned a Dodge dealership in White River Junction, and also was a farmer and kind of a hobby farmer, and had 150 cattle on this little area here until the interstate I-89 sorry, was built, and kind of broke up the land and made it less feasible to have cows. Another interesting kind of facts about the history of this space is that it was used to house and slaughter animals, particularly horses that were brought in by train. And along with the fish that were caught in this area, they were processed in a meat factory just down the road, apparently, and made into dog food just up until after World War II, where apparently the business venture went bankrupt. So anyhow, just to contextualize like the area that we're talking about and what has happened there over time. And as we all know, that this was an area that was really highly impacted by Irene, and where there was a lot of silt and sand deposited onto the banks that also brought with it the well-known knotweed and a number of different species that weren't necessarily located here previous to Irene. So there's, you'll see a couple pictures coming up where you can see the whole landscape as it includes a ballpark, some picnic tables, and a little gathering area, and also this building. And all this has been used over the course of the years to, for picnics and ball games and in gatherings. So we're here to kind of introduce a few possibilities and also hear what your thoughts and visions might be for the future of Clifford Park and all the ways that it could be taken care of and designed to meet the needs of the community and you all.
Thanks, Karen. So before we get to dreaming and thinking about the future, I'm going to turn my video on. Let's talk about the current condition of the park. The park is currently mowed once or twice a week during the spring, summer, and fall, depending on grass growth and programmed activities. It's not a part of the turf management plan, and so it has not had pesticides or herbicides or fertilizers on it in the past 3 seasons, which is to our advantage in terms of building soil, which is my primary role in this project, is to help at the beginning to build soil and help throughout in the community building and fluency of the project. So I'm really excited to be a part of that. As you can see in this picture, there's not a lot going on there. This is a pretty recent picture, if I am correct. This is when we were there recently. And of course, it's also very early spring, and this was taken during droughty conditions. So in some years, we would still have snow on the ground here. So this is maybe not the best representation of the greenness that could be there. But as I understand it, this has been a problematic place to be able to grow turf in a way that was nice. With my soil health knowledge lens, I can see that this land is really devoid of soil life. And that starts by bringing in biology by way of organic materials, which fortunately in Vermont, we have all around us. Everything that trees produce, And a lot of the waste that humans produce in their households as well can help us to build that soil. So we'll be working on first building the soil at this site, and we have a plan. It can be done. I'm totally confident that we can do that. And in the process of building that soil, we'll gain lots of other benefits. So this is more recent, I guess, even, or just more pictures, but this is the area that we're thinking about. So that little, the barn, we have a slide coming up to show in a diagram the area. We're going to start with a small area. There are two potential areas that we could work with. We're going to start with the first and largest of those areas. And Karen is going to take us, or I think I'm taking us through this community feedback piece. So the Resilient Hartford Committee had put out a wonderful survey, and many people participated in that survey. The full survey link we can throw in the chat for anyone who needs to be refreshed or hasn't seen that. That information is public, and it was really helpful to understand how the community would like to see their parks used. There was quite a lot of positive feedback toward the idea of a food forest, a community space, places where we can grow perennial crops as well as annual crops, trees, building soil, composting, addressing food security and building community, maximizing food, nutrition, environmental, social, and economic benefits, and have it as a place to learn from, with, and act. So we look forward to diving into more of that with you. The community feedback we've received so far has been informative, but it's just the beginning. Now we need to really dive in and build the core community that's going to see this project forward. And Karen.
Yeah, so speaking of that core community, we're hoping that a lot of you and some of the neighbors and people you know, all the input came from a group of people, I think around 70. So that's, I mean, it's a great number of people to engage and to work with to kind of for this process of community visioning, because you know, this is an opportunity for us to like really create something together that meets a lot of the needs of everyone involved. So so we just kind of want to go over a little bit of some of the possibilities and some of the inspiration that is kind of that's been driving this project. And one thing is just like food forests popping up in all kinds of places, cities across the United States, from Seattle to Philadelphia to Chicago and Austin. There are a number of different community orchards and food forests that are being built and designed in the process of a community and town collaboration similar to this one. And some of this is coming from just the initiative to want to create more local food security and grow more food kind of for our year-round consumption in the area. And other reasons also include food sovereignty and kind of like bringing the commons or the community spaces back into the hands of the community, and to create multi-use kind of even cultural use easements. There's a lot of land being opened in the realm of land trust to some of the original peoples of the area for cultural use and harvesting. So anyhow, it's a very kind of hot topic, if you will, right now, but there's a lot of good reasons to be visioning and working together in this way. And there's a lot that we can do with even just beginning, limited budgets and resources. So yeah, we're looking at any possibility from community orchards to more outdoor spaces for gatherings and concerts, an area where there can be a lot of free food grown and education occurring. Of course, that's increasing biodiversity and eco-literacy, building flood and drought resilience, which we know that with climate change and we're seeing a lot more kind of extreme weather events. And so I think we can, Kat, would you mind just kind of clicking through? So this is an overview of, I guess it would be the south end of the Clifford Park area. It's a total of 12 acres, I believe. So where you see the kind of yellow circles are spaces that we have the possibility and potential to design with some major focus areas being soil restoration and bringing soil health. And fortunately, we can feed many birds with one seeds, as we'll say, or many seeds, because the process of planting, and we can head to the next slide, in a way that mimics a forest, is a way of like working with nature to maximize not only the possibility of what can be grown, but also the health of what's underneath those plants, being the soil. So I wanted to just introduce this idea of food forest to everyone, to think about the possibilities of how food can be grown for humans and for ecosystems and birds, pollinator species, and also habitat. So oftentimes we think, oh, this means growing a forest, like potentially like in a meadow or a field, which it can in terms of design, but it also means growing like a forest, where there are diversity of species in terms of height, in terms of providing ecosystem functions. There's a lot of varieties of plants that will particularly build soils and help to bring up nutrients from subsurface layers to more surface layers. Plants that will bring pollinators and provide really great, bird habitat. So yeah, this is the idea of a food forest. So there's a lot of benefits, some of which we've already touched on a little bit, but creating habitat and increasing biodiversity, having a lot of perennial foods that will come back year after year for human consumption, and also soil building. It says stabilize the soils. And I like to think of kind of, well, we're going to get to work with Kat in her area of expertise, but to learn about the incredible soil food web and how to like bring back that life. And that in itself is going to be a really interesting process to be a part of and observe. So yeah, some of the benefits and what it can look like: interconnected pathways, connecting little outdoor spaces that have interest areas, maybe specific things that will draw birds. So it can be used as an opportunity to go exploring with all ages. There's a lot of different ways that we can look at and designing the space. And here are some more examples in the bottom right corner. This is something that we'll refer to as a polyculture or a guild, which is a combination of plants that are providing certain functions for the ecosystem. So in this case, the dominant species within this growing companion situation would be like a tree. And then we meet the needs of the tree with the plants that are growing around them. So we know that a fruit tree, for instance, needs to be pollinated. So we can plant things that are particularly drawing specific insects and pollinators that will help that tree really produce good fruits. We can also be planting things that are building soils and bringing nitrogen. So really, we're kind of like creating these biological closed loop cycles that are maximizing the health of like not only the parts of the system, but the whole as well. And yeah, just another also metaphor for the way that the community can grow throughout this process. All right, so thank you so much, and back to you, Kat.
Thank you, Karen. And if I'm moving too quickly on the slides, I know there's a lot of words on there. We're going to make those available to people as well. And we can always pan back to certain slides if you'd like to during the Q&A, which is coming up pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a project in front of us. We have some barriers to overcome. They're totally doable barriers. Building soil and building community are things we know how to do. And that's really all it's going to take to move forward on this project. And as Karen mentioned, building biomass, growing plants actually is the best way to build soil. So we'll have some opportunities to learn more about that and then see it happen in Clifford Park together. So our next step is to build our team. We have Karen and I contracted with the town to work for a certain amount of time on this project, and we're deeply invested, of course, in the project and the community in so many ways already, as I think many of you know. And we have a lot of projects that will connect to this project, I think, to provide labor at key points. Hopefully we can get some young people involved. That's always a goal, I think, of both Karen and I and many other folks on this call tonight. So we need to build the team, and there are lots of ways to get involved. These are sort of 4 groupings of ways that we've thought of to get involved. Of course, there are many other ways. Everyone has something that they can contribute, and we have certain things that we're going to need to make sure get done. So if you're at all interested in being a part of this ongoing work, and especially if you live in the community of Clifford Park, but that's not a necessity. I live in Sharon, and I'm going to be a part of this too, because it's really exciting. So we have lots of ways for you to get involved, and we can't wait to figure out what's best for you. Coming up, we have some processes. So we want to let you know that we are thinking about those processes. We do have a timeline. I've broken this into sort of the social piece and the physical piece. So in the social realm, we need to build a Clifford Park team. We got to do that right away. We need to build our skills as a community, and we have a lot of skills in our community. Karen and I are coming to the table with some of those skills, but we know that many people in the community have incredible skills that we also want to bring to the table and draw from as people are willing to share. And then we get to build the food forest together, or a pocket park, or whatever we want that to look like. The physical process will take us through the fall of this year. And of course, this is going to be an ongoing project for years to come. The first thing is to build the soil. That involves lots of resources, leaves and wood chips, and we're already working on that. I know we already have a neighbor who's willing to donate a dump truck, I think, of manure, which is awesome. Then we're going to design the path space and layout, think about the physical form. Karen is going to lead us through the species design process and planting. We'll all get to plant together in August and September. There will be some plantings along the way to build soil, but the primary plantings likely won't happen until later in the fall, because we do have to make sure that we follow all the town processes and keep Park and Rec, both commission and department or committee, involved in the process. So let's grow food together. Let's grow food forest together, or a pocket park. I failed to get the contacts for Resilient Hartford and Clifford Park Committee, but I think the folks on the call can throw those in the chat, and we probably all know who each other is. Karen and I have our contact information here. We both have websites, and we'll be in touch with the committee all along the way, both the Hartford Resilience Committee, or is it Resilient Hartford, sorry, and the Clifford Park Committee and team as we move forward. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and invite everyone to turn on their videos if you'd like, so that we can have a community conversation. We're a small enough group that I think we can probably just go with raising hands and asking questions. But if you're more comfortable, or your Wi-Fi is not working or something, and you'd like to ask a question in the chat, please do that as well. Anyone want to start us off? And John, I wanted to thank you for those slides. I threw that in the chat. Those pictures you took from during Irene were just really informative. Thanks a lot.
No problem. I was hoping I had some pictures of just after Irene, before some of the debris was removed, but I didn't have those. But I thought they did a good job of showing what we've got to work with, you know, so and that's inches, if not feet deep, the deposits that are there.
So we can consider that a blank slate is the positive way to look at that.
The real positive way to look at it is that it's not full of invasive plants.
Right. Not complete. Yeah, that's true. There are some on site, but Sandy, I see you have your hand up. You just need to unmute.
Oh, there it goes. Hi, I'm at the West Hartford Library. My name is Sandy Carey, and I was walking in the park yesterday, and at the lower end of the field where the snowmobile bridge goes across a little stream, we walk out there a couple times a week, and the fiddlehead ferns are coming up all over the place in that section. So it might be nice to consider that and maybe help maintain that. It's a nice grove of ferns. And there were a couple guys picking the fiddleheads, and they noticed that somebody had already been picking there. So they were quite conscious of not over picking, which was, I was really glad to see that they were being nice to the plants. I just wanted to include that as a nice area of, ferns and shady area might be a nice thing. And I know that the field right now is, I think something's eating it. If you walk in the field and you get to the verge edge, the verge is very growing profusely, but the lawn itself is dead. So they seem to be, whatever's eating the grass or interfering with the grass production stops on the verge. So I found that kind of interesting that was happening. I don't know what's going on over there, but a lot of dead grass.
Sandy, can you describe the verge? Is that a particular space?
That's the area, where they don't mow.
Okay.
So along the river there, that would be kind of like a verge where it's not maintained or produced, and so whatever's eating the grass doesn't like that part. And violets, groupings of violets were growing around the dead grass, which violets, you can eat violets. So these bugs don't, or nematodes or whatever they are, they don't like violets either. So that was my observation recently. But I know that a lot of people walk in the park. We walk there, like I said, a couple times a week. It's nice to have a loop around the park for people to walk. People walk their dogs, and access to the water there. There's a nice, the water is shallow along that edge of the park there, and a lot of people bring their kids there to play. So I think opening up little avenues for the kids to access the park there and maybe have picnics and things should be maintained. And I know the Parks Department doesn't always have the time to devote to a lot of that maintenance, but maybe we can help in the future with that. But having little areas where you can walk around, and then it opens up to a nice shady grassy spot, and then you continue on a trail. There was a trail there at one point, but it's growing up quite a bit there. So only part of the trail is left. So that's my observation.
Thank you, Sandy. That's really helpful to hear. It's especially helpful to hear from folks that use the park on a regular basis. And we want to make sure that we enhance the qualities that folks want,
Right,
that are using the park, and certainly not take any away. I'm really glad to hear about the fiddleheads.
yeah, there's a
and
whole bunch there.
It's great, and it gave me the idea that part of the education we might try on site is a little education about foraging and how important it is to remember how many of us there are when we go and pick things from the wild, and
Right.
about foraging preservation. So thank you for that. That's really helpful. And I'd like to just quickly address the idea of bugs on the grass. I think actually the issue is we don't have enough bugs on the grass.
Oh no, I'm not saying I'm not saying bugs are bad.
Yeah.
But whatever is happening over there is eating I think they're eating underground, and I'm not sure. I know they had it tested, or they were gonna have it tested, Dylan.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
but
I'll be able to
something's eating it.
address that. And we're going to be having a soil health presentation in 2 weeks. I should have spent a little bit longer on that last slide. On May 26th, which is a Wednesday, 2 weeks from tonight, we'll at the same time, we'll be having a presentation on soil health, building soil at Clifford Park, where I'll talk a little bit about the science. I like to geek out on that, and I do think it's a really important part to understand the basic science mechanisms of building soil. So as John Bouton mentioned, John, am I saying, is it Bouton? Bouton.
Yes.
As John mentioned, several feet of silt on top of ground there. And you can imagine the weight of the river on top of that. The amount of compaction that we're dealing with would make it difficult for any bug, no matter how microscopic, to live.
Yeah.
And so as we introduce literally billions of soil organisms through photosynthesis and organic matter on top of the soil, I think we're going to be able to see a really regenerative effect in the landscape, and I'm excited to work with folks to make that happen.
That would be great. And the only other thing, there's a small playground there. And I think you could have a little bit more focus there with the playground, and maybe more swings and some adult swings, because I like nothing more than swinging a swing, but they're all very small child swings there at the moment. But I know that a lot of people do go over there and use the park to play in, and especially people in the neighborhood there.
Mhm.
That's me.
Love to take more questions, and also remind folks that if you know that you are interested in being a part of this in an ongoing way at whatever level, even if it's just curiosity, go ahead and throw your name in the chat with your email address. We have a couple of folks. I think John and Laura, that's part of what you were doing by putting your email in there. We're going to keep contacting you. This is going to be a really fun project. But yeah, any other questions or observations? Yeah, Kai.
I know a lot of people who are interested who are not on this meeting yet. And so is there going to be an easy way for me to take the recording of this and send that to different people that are going to be very interested in seeing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll send a link. I'll make sure that everyone has a link.
I have a question.
Yeah, Frederica.
Until we establish our formal steering committee and people have an idea what they would like to do, it would be important to have a couple of contact people for them to contact. For example, I have a bazillion leaves every year at my property, which is just surrounded by many trees. And I would like to sign up right away to bring over a truckload of leaves. So who would be there to receive that?
That is a job that I would love to designate. And it would be, of course, ideal for someone who lives in that neighborhood to be able to receive or direct folks as to where to put things. I think, Dylan, we'd certainly need to be in touch with you and maybe direct us to where we can store materials as they're incoming.
Okay.
Yes, I have a spot designated for material. So if you need a spot, Frederica, immediately, I can make it happen. But I haven't had time to get down there to designate it. But
It's not so immediate.
We are looking for organic material, and we're having a tree project coming up, so we're going to be bringing down some chips. So there is a spot you know, I just need to get down there and lay it out. But
Will
if
there
you're
be
looking
a
for a spot to go
sign?
right now, then,
Will there be a sign at it?
well, I think there will have to be some sort of, because we can't take everything from everywhere. There will have to be a limitation, because it's small space, so it's not like carte blanche. And there is a gate, so there will have to be like some coordination with timing to get the gate open so people can come back there and dump.
Okay.
But it is a limited space, and it's not just like a free dumping zone. We're not transfer station, so we'll have to be, you know, regulated.
Right, we have to be careful how wide an ask we put. What I'd like to suggest, if this works for you, Dylan, and it works for everybody else, I would be happy to work with Dylan as a clearinghouse. So if someone has materials they want to donate to the park, an email to Dylan and I would be great so that we can coordinate whether or not it's a useful material and whether or not we have space and when it could be dropped off. Does that sound
Yeah,
good?
that'd be great. And we can talk offline and get about giving you a key so you can open the gate when it's appropriate.
Great. I think that works as long as that works for Matt. Wonderful. I think that'd be a really good way to coordinate, and I'm happy to review materials. I wouldn't want to accept, for instance, food scraps on a large scale or anything like that. I don't think we're ready to start composting on site, but I do see that as a potential for the space in the future as we continue to need materials. But I think that we're going to be able to find enough what I like to call carbon material. So the dry wood chips and leaves, grass clippings, even old straw and hay, certainly compost and manure are all welcome. And cardboard. Lots of cardboard.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I know that at one of the previous meetings, Kat, you had mentioned the problems with especially some exotic jumping snake worms,
Yes.
I think. And so I just was sort of going to ask the question is how does one decide whether they have them or not? And how do we keep them out of this organic matter that we're going to be adding?
Thank you, John. That's a great question. And that's one reason I'd like to be a part of the clearinghouse to make sure to know where materials are coming from. I can certainly advise people as to how to know if there are snake worms, and just for folks to know, snake worms live in the top 3 inches of material. And so they're pretty easy to find, but they can be in just a small area. They can advance by feet each year. So I'm highly aware of those, and it is something I've written right into the contract that we need to be very careful about bringing in invasives such as snake worms, but not exclusively snake worms. Also concerned about poison ivy and other things that might come in with wood chips. So it is important to know where the sources are coming from. And in the case where we might get an offer and we're not sure where it comes from, if I can give it a visual inspection, we might accept it, but if not, I think we shouldn't. Did that answer your question well enough, John?
Oh, yeah, thanks. I don't think I have any on my property, but I'm always astounded, having lived here for 18 years, how the worms have sort of, the other invasive worms have kind of spread around, and I can see the leaves disappearing from the understory of the little bit of forest I've got in the backyard. And I didn't notice that 18 years ago. So I'm probably guilty of having brought some here, but they're an interesting challenge.
They are indeed, and that does sound like an indicator sign. I have not had them myself, but I have had experience with snake worms, unfortunately. Not on my
Should
list.
we ask a landscaper to drop off some wood chips? Or does the town?
Again, I think that would be welcome, but I would ask that person to get in touch with Dylan and I, both to arrange for just making sure they're sourced well, and that the timing of delivery can work out and placed well. I want to keep it simple because we don't want to make it difficult for people to donate to us, but at the same time, we do need to be careful about staff time and also invasives.
Yeah, I would say for the moment, the hope is that the space will be able to accept community organics that are safe. But for the meantime, you know, like I was saying, we have a tree projects going on in the town. When we can, we'll bring in the chips. If there is clean stuff coming in, but I don't think we want to open up the invitation at this point to everyone in the town being like, bring your leaves, your compost, you know, that all that stuff should still be going to the transfer station at this time. And but we will work to coming up with a plan that will provide that opportunity to the people in that part of the town to bring their organic material there, but not, I don't want to give them the expectation that that is happening now, because it is not.
So just to clarify, Dylan, if someone is affiliated with this project and has sourced some materials, we might consider those, but otherwise it's not open? Or are you suggesting only town generated materials?
I think we need to figure that out. I think we need to talk about that.
All right, you and I can, I'm happy to work on that with you. And so for now, let's not arrange any material drop-offs. But if there are inquiries, please send them my way. And
Yeah, we can evaluate inquiries on a case-by-case basis at the moment. But I mean, it would be great that we could have an ongoing compost pile down there and have that going on. But I don't want to have that expectation at the moment because we don't have anything set up. So
we don't have capacity for that.
Yeah.
Right now.
Dylan, perhaps a quick question for you. Would grass clippings and other such things from the parks be useful? So I could volunteer the use of a truck and some weightlifting expertise if if that would be useful.
Well, we don't bag our clippings in the parks.
Okay.
I mean, we do it very occasionally in Maxfield if like we get behind or there's a really fast grow and then we have to bag a field. But generally, we try to get to the grass soon enough where we're not creating thatch and it just gets mulched in. That's kind of our hope.
Good news.
Marcia.
I have a question on another topic. You had mentioned earlier, Kat, that you would like to get some younger people involved. And I am wondering if there's anyone here at the meeting or if anyone knows someone who has good contacts with local schools. We might be able to find some energetic young people through the schools.
Hi.
I've been in contact with the main person running the Ottaquiche school. And she's very interested in this project. And I think she would like to get young people involved, but also their parents. So she's not on this meeting, but she's one of the people that I would like to send this to, so that she sees what we're doing, because she's expressed very strong interest.
I think that sounds like a very good idea, and especially involving their parents, because the Ottaquiche school is elementary, right? Because
Yeah, it is.
I was just wondering if anyone has contact with the high schools in this area.
My son works at the Hartford High School. One of my sons.
I think
And
both
he's
Karen
interested,
and I,
and his wife is interested too.
pardon me, I'm sorry. Karen.
In high schools and even in middle schools, there is a community service component often. And this could fit the bill for a child to get some community service credits by helping with this project. Once we describe the jobs available.
Thanks, Frederica. I see Becky has her hand raised.
Yep, sorry. I am so sorry for being really late, everyone. So pardon me if this has already been mentioned, but I'm wondering about the HACTC program. I know my neighbor, Thomas Osler, takes a lot of kids out to do stuff in the woods and whatever, and I'm wondering if I could recruit him to recruit part of that program to partake in this.
That sounds amazing.
What does HSETC stand for?
Hartford Area Career.
Technology
Oh,
Technology Center, something like that.
okay.
Yep. So I mean, he's got students out with not that we need chainsaws. I don't know what you need, but with chainsaws and all sorts of heavy equipment and teaching them all sorts of outdoor skills.
That would be great. We definitely envision like a lot of the planting parties, having hopefully a lot of youth there, and some that I work with in another realm that I do. And then also Kat, we're working with a couple students from this Regeneration Corps project, which is linking local kids to farm projects, but also projects like this for kind of like on the ground skills training around regenerative agriculture. So that is awesome. And we should definitely reach out to that group. And this does also bring us around to one of our goals, which of course is to have this like organizing committee, of which maybe, I don't know who's running the horticulture program there at the tech center now, but like someone from that department would be really great on the committee.
So one
Yeah,
thing
I think
that,
it's a great idea. I mean, I think bringing in well, I know it is VOTEC, but it is the HACTC, HACTC. But yeah, they're a great group of folks. I think you're talking about the natural resource side of things, but I think, yeah, you're right there, the horticultural thing, but that would be to tie them into this project, because it would be a long-term, could be a long-term caretaker kind of the site.
Mhm. Yep.
That's a great idea. Marcia.
so as most of you know, I work at the Woodstock Elementary and soon to work at the new Prosper Valley School in Pomfret, which will be a 5-6 school with a place-based outdoor education focus. They moved a bunch of the 5th and 6th graders into this one building to make more space for the younger children at the Woodstock Elementary. And I know that Woodstock, I mean, that's not the town of Hartford, but getting on teachers' calendars, I mean, I noticed that you went through that slide very quickly, but the one that said when the planting was happening.
In the fall.
In the fall, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a bad idea to actually connect with teachers before the end of the school year so that they can be sort of planning on it, and so that they can hit the ground running with this, because with something like that, they would start incorporating lessons like from day one. If you're going to be planting in September, you need to do prep work with the kids. So it's not a bad idea to jump on that connections that anybody has with Hartford area elementary schools, especially.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to share that again, but it didn't work. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, a lot of what we're thinking too is doing like bed prep and soil building in this like spring and summer with fall planting opportunities, because that gives that bed a chance to kind of really breakdown and prep.
I think that, yeah, I think in the fall will be an excellent time to bring school kids in. That's when there's going to
Right.
be a lot of work being done. This time of year, I do actually work quite a lot with schools, not a lot in Hartford, but certainly some. And yeah, after the pandemic year and being 1 month away from the end of school, it's a really challenging time to try and forge any new projects. But it is a good time to begin to forge new relationships for the fall. So I'm a big fan of that, and whatever I can do to help forge those relationships, I'd be happy to. Having personal connections is great. And I also just wanted to throw out there that the White River Conservation District is also a really good connection for us. They are citizen led, they are volunteers, they are voter placed, they are right in town. I have connections there. And they also have projects lined up over the summer with the Youth Conservation Corps. And the Upper Valley Trails Alliance might also be a good partner to get involved in some of these projects. So I'm happy to try and coordinate some of that, but certainly having the committee members do some of this work would be very helpful. Frederica.
I would like to be on the steering committee, and I am inspired to think that now would be the time to put out some invitation letters to places like schools and describe what would be needed from their students at any given time. And also network with these other organizations that you named that I never heard of. So that I would be happy to write to them and say, it's serendipity to have discovered you, and this is a need that we have, and so forth. So Kai and Marcia and I have been on the initial steering committee, and there's many different tasks that need to be ongoing, that we can get started on right away. So as I am an eager beaver, I would like to be one of them.
That is fantastic. I just want to give a shout out to Karen, who's taking notes on a document that I'm really glad to see that she's taking notes on. Thank you, thank you. More questions? Am I missing anybody's raised hand? Becky.
This isn't a question, just another thought about another population that might be interested in participating is folks at the Dismas House. Could be a really nice opportunity for them to learn skills that they can take with them when they leave.
That's a great idea.
And I have a couple neighbors that are very involved there too, so I could try to liaise with them too.
Yay. Thanks, Becky.
Thank you. That's great.
I have a
Katie.
question.
Katie.
I was wondering if there was a role that the seniors could play, like reaching out to Bugby Senior Center. At some point, I missed the whole initial presentation, so I don't know about dates or timelines or goals, but I like asking that question. How can seniors play a role?
Thank you, Katie. That's a wonderful question. And I think that seniors can play amazing roles, not least of which is adding wisdom and
Storytelling.
every bit of what we do. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's really good. And I would imagine that at this point, our seniors are pretty eager to get out. I know I've been seeing some great outdoor Tai Chi, and folks are very eager to be out and about.
Yeah.
Does anybody know the new director at the Bugby Senior Center? Oh,
No.
well, I've been intending to meet him. So if I do, then maybe I could talk a little about this project.
I've got his email. I've been corresponding with him about COVID stuff, so I can send that to you. This is Becky, Katie. I can email it to you.
Okay, that would be great. That would open the door. Thank you.
Great.
I'm gonna mute us now.
Fantastic. So it sounds like we are threading together a bit of a committee of interested folks. I want to ask, I know it can be hard to commit to a project, but we've got a number of people on this call. Could I have a show of hands? Would you be okay if we continue to include you, if you're on this call right now, in emails going forward as we continue planning? Great.
Yay.
Wonderful. That's a great place to start. And as Kai mentioned, there are a number of people who are interested that are not here. I know a member of the Clifford Park Committee, many of us know him, who lives right in the community and is this amazing gardener, teacher, educator, Paul Sadowski. I suspect Paul's going to want to be involved in this too, but I don't want to volunteer his clearly overstretched time already, as many of us are. But I think we have, what I'm feeling is that we have a sense of enthusiasm to move forward. We have a sense of hope that this project is going to work, that we're going to be able to get in a lot of community members as we move forward and draw in the resources that we need from our own community. One thing we haven't talked about in terms of resources, we've talked about physical resources, but we will need fundraising ongoing as well. I believe we have enough funds right now to pay for the contracted services with Karen and I. The committee, Resilient Hartford Committee, will know more about that, but we will need some fundraising going forward. We have some opportunity to gather a lot of free materials. Building soil is actually really cheaply done, inexpensively done, when we are just mindful of the resources around us, and using plants. I think we can get a bunch of things donated to us. I don't think we should rely too much on local businesses to donate. They do a lot of that already, but perhaps they can give us discounts if we do need to purchase. And so, and Karen and I also have a lot of relationships with other organizations, such as 350 Vermont, who has a goal of planting 200,000 trees over the next 2 years. So we can get in on their tree order this fall, once we get through our design process and we know what species we're looking for. And I do have a supply of some keystone species that we could plant earlier on if we decide. Anything else from anyone, and especially the committee? Yeah, Frederica, please.
I'm just thinking that something that would be really nice to put out would be drawings of the prospective park and the design, that at least the design that you've drawn up so far. And I also was thinking about the seniors. So for example, seniors that have drawing skills might be willing to put together a prototype poster that could be, I mean, even put in the Valley News, and say, look what's coming to Clifford Park. If you'd like to sign on to this, here's your contacts, etc. And let as many people as possible know about the project visually.
I love it.
Yeah, these are great ideas. So I was just wondering if you do want to keep continuing to get updates and to be a part of the ongoing dialogue and be checking in about all of the things. And we've got a great task list moving forward. But just to throw your email in the chat, and then I can just put it in a little, we'll create a group from here.
And we'll be sure to share the minutes that we have taken tonight. And I think probably Matt is taking notes officially.
Oh, good.
And has probably captured all sorts of things that we missed.
Are we not going to have a email including all the people on the survey, so that there's just a much wider group that could be included?
I think at first, certainly, but we could get to a point where we're sending too many emails. I think we certainly want to make sure that we're not leaving anybody out. And we can continue emailing the whole group with reminders that there is a process going on. But I do worry about overwhelming people with too much information. Marcia.
Yeah, I agree, although I think we should follow up this meeting with an email to all who were invited, thanking those who came. And for those who were unable to make it, this is where they can find the recording. And if they would like to be included in the process, even if they're not sure in what way, immediately to send in their emails and, anything else that they want to include. I myself would be interested in working on fundraising. I did grant writing many, many years ago. I don't want to say how long ago, but I'm sure with some help, I can bring those skills into the 21st century.
Great.
Thank you, Marcia. Fantastic. So is there anything else? Kai, do you want to say anything else, or Frederica?
I think we should
I of
go
course
to next
want to be
steps.
involved. But I don't hardly have to say it because everybody knows I want to be involved anyway.
Are we going to outline next steps?
Yes. I'm going to see if I can just share that slide again. Escape. Technology. I have to say, I'm so impressed that everyone here knew just what to do. Everyone had themselves muted. We have learned so much in the past year together, haven't we?
Yeah.
This is the next step slide. So this slide, sort of the teams categorically that we're thinking about, certainly not stuck on that. And it sounds like we've actually had quite a lot of interest in all 4 of these categories tonight. So that's really exciting. And this next slide. So the next step will be to follow up from this meeting with notes and a recording to everybody who's on that original list and the growing list as people become more people become interested. We're building the Clifford Park team, which we've started doing tonight, which is great. Everyone here said, keep emailing me. We will build skills in community education, drawing, of course, from our vast community as well. Karen and I will also offer a couple of workshops. And I just want to acknowledge that Karen and I come to the table with a lot of knowledge, but we also know there's a lot of knowledge in the room, and we honor and welcome that as well. So the next workshop will be building soil at Clifford Park with myself, and I assume Karen will be present too. I'll attend all hers as well. This is a process we're working on together. And then on June 9th, Karen will lead a Zoom webinar. It'll be a meeting style like this. It won't be a webinar. We want to be very conversational. Karen will lead one on species design. And then Karen, did you want to talk a little bit about that third date that we're going to wait to set until we define our process a little?
Sure. So the idea here is, if it's not completely obvious, is to kind of have equip this group of people with skills and knowledge to be able to make some informed decisions. And, we can come in and just kind of create a design and put it forward and build it together. But to really have a community process around it where we're really nurturing and fostering the questions that we want to be asking, so that we can really create a multi-use space that comes from the vision and emerges from the group of stakeholders and participants. I think that the best term for this is just a community design process, or an opportunity for us to come together after learning some pretty kind of practical skills and in terms of building healthy soils and giving us a really good foundation to start with. And then I'll go into some specific species and from, a whole range of pollinators to medicinal and edible varieties, a lot of native varieties of things, and also cover some basic design elements. So with all of these things, the idea is then you all become the designers and this future team that's going to come together with other people that might be interested in joining us. And then we together can work over the process of this third Zoom call to really kind of ground the elements that we want to really build the space out with. So just get right down into the particulars of what species of peach tree, for instance, or what herbs do we want growing, and who, how do we find those things out? So it's going to be a really integrated process that should be fun and inspiring. We're all going to learn something, and then hopefully from that step, we'll have a plan that we'll then put towards the town for approval. We just need to get a sign off on that, and we'll be able to start creating together. So yeah. And so there's not a date for that because I imagine it will come from that group itself to find a time that works best. And then that group will produce the final design that we can then present both to the town, but also the greater community, and it includes this committee. Yeah, any questions about that or thoughts, suggestions? We're really open to recognizing that we also might have missed something in this process. Other voices and ideas that should be involved. We want to make sure we're covering all the bases.
Karen,
Yeah.
will you and Kat be on the steering committee? Or the
Yes.
Clifford Park team, is that what I should call it?
Yeah, I'm planning on being on that team for certain, and being available. And Kat and I will be there for the work parties where we're doing the installations as well. I eventually see that it will become a neighborhood committee. Just probably makes the most sense, but I can envision myself, being in some level of involvement.
Okay.
Into the future, yeah.
And these workshops that you have posted on May 26th and June 9th, and the other date to be announced, will be by Zoom.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Mhm.
Those will be by Zoom, and they are all open to the public. They'll be advertised in all the same ways that this meeting was.
Okay.
And we will record those also for people that are not able to attend as well. Because of the way that we need to work with the town of Hartford, because of the process of insurance and things like that, Karen and I are actually not able to be on site until toward planting time. So until we're done with that, on Matt, if you want to say anything about that. But I do plan to be a part of the committee. I will not be able to be on site. And it actually, I think in the long run, for the sustainability of this project and this park, it needs to be born from the community. And Karen and I are here to offer our expertise to help get the job done. And so we come with science expertise, but we also come with some community building expertise to lend as well. And being community members, I live in Sharon, Karen lives in Norwich. We are both in Hartford all the time doing lots of projects. I absolutely intend to be a part of this project in the long term.
I think that putting up some notices and posters and information and pictures, etc., in the West Hartford Library would be good for us, because a lot of people, I think, I don't know this, but I assume that a lot of residents go through that library, and it would be a good place to educate people about the project.
Mhm.
That's a great idea. Maybe also just a little gas station there in West Hartford.
Yeah. So we need Leela to draw some pictures.
What gas station?
Can we volunteer Leela?
Yeah. Yeah, I see and feel so much potential to connect with our neighbors and our local school communities and families just through this household. I'm not ready to jump and commit and start naming. That's an old habit. I'm gonna like listen and sleep on it and wait and talk about it. But, you know, I think I see so much potential. I trust this group and this form as it is, and whatever is to come. It's so beautiful to jump in here late.
Mhm.
I've been listening to Granny Kai talk about it for months. It's nice to see this all together in this presentation. I've seen a few slides.
Great.
The community is going to create this. It's interesting to think about you guys like being long distance. I agree though, for the sustainability. I'm sure Leela will, and all of her cousins will have like a drawing contest, a drawing flyer contest.
I love it. This is great. So I'm aware of the time. We're 3 minutes before 8 o'clock. I think we've accomplished a lot this evening, and I want to thank everyone for coming. If there are any last minute process questions about the project and how we'll move forward, now's a good time to ask those, or you can always follow up with us by email. We want this to be an open and transparent and community process, so we look forward to doing that with you.
I have a quick question. The committee that is gonna come together, I see dates on this slide as like, and I'm hearing that those are community education opportunities. How often will the planning committee meet? Did you guys talk about that, or
No,
what that commitment looks like?
yeah, so we will have to convene as a planning committee, and I'm hoping that someone will be the lead. It almost sounded like Frederico was stepping up to lead the committee.
Sure.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And so I imagine that committee will also want to meet fairly regularly. My schedule is crazy busy, and so is Karen, but we have both dedicated this Wednesday evening slot to this project. And the days are getting longer and lighter. That may continue to work. I'm not saying that we can't be available for other times, but this is a good time to invite Karen and I to be a part of a process.
Okay.
Maybe we could have a preliminary short meeting next Wednesday night and see where we are and how to go forward.
We could do that.
That sounds great.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Frederica, can you send out an invite?
I can send, no, but I will find somebody who can.
You know what? Maybe I can just do that. I'm building a rain garden in Hartford on Friday and Saturday if anybody wants to come help shovel.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you were there last week. It's a wonderful volunteer project, another just great community project, lots of people joining in. So I'm terribly busy right now. I could, if people can just save the time, I can commit to getting a Zoom invite out
Okay.
by early next week. Save the
May
date.
19th in
May
the,
19th.
yeah, at I don't know what time you want to meet, 6 till 7,
Can we say 7 o'clock? Does that work for folks?
7 till 8?
That would be- that would
Because
be
it's
fantastic.
Zoom, so.
Yeah, it's Zoom and it's lighter later.
Mm-hmm.
7 o'clock would be perfect. And I don't think we need more than an hour to get started.
Great.
Sound good?
Yeah, and will you send it out then, Kat, or who will
I
send
will.
it out?
I can send it out early next week, and that'll give me time to get the notes out. Matt, will you be sending out the notes? I'll send you a link to the recording to include.
Yeah, Karen, if you could send me your notes, that would be helpful.
Okay, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna link our notes right into the chat so everyone can have them for a couple, for referencing as well.
That's so wonderful.
I might clean them up. I mean, hopefully,
Well, the
yeah, feel
chat-
free to add anything.
The chat disappears when the meeting ends, though, unless it gets
You ca-
archived.
You can save your chat.
Right, but they won't be available to the participants in this meeting after the meeting ends, I don't think. So click it now.
Yeah, if everyone opens it now and saves it in your drive, and then we can download and send a copy to anyone who doesn't want to use the Google Drive as well.
Okay.
And my computer will automatically save the entire chat from the meeting. I just threw in the link to the slides as well, in case you want to pull that off, but those will go in the notes too. So if folks want to have a slower version of the slides, they'll be able to stream through those on their own.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you,
follow
dear
up.
tech savvy people.
Takes a village, and we got a great one. We got 5 of them. Thank you so much, everybody. Karen, do you have anything you want to say in closing?
No, just thank you all for your time and interest. And Kat and I have had a really enjoyable process working on all of this together and getting this little mini presentation taster out to you all tonight. And it's just been really wonderful to see the way that Resilient Hartford works together and really gets it done. And a lot of gratitude to everyone. So, yeah.
Great. So plan on
Super project.
next week. We meet. The week after that, we learn about soil health.
Yay.
Cool.
Great.
All right. Thanks so much, folks.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Bye.